Everyone knows being the MVP doesn't necessarily mean you're the best player in the NBA. So then, what does it mean? The MVP award goes to the most valuable player, hence the abbreviation. But what makes a player valuable? And why are we so quick to decide who the most impactful player in the NBA is? Different players impact different areas of the game respectively, but it all comes down to wins. How many wins does your player account for? But then again, we can't use that argument because in that case a high usage and high volume player with a bad supporting cast will be favored. Switch out Draymond Green and Blake Griffin from last season. Blake Griffin, who is widely recognized as the better power forward than Draymond, would have a higher impact on the Golden State Warriors than him, correct? No. The Warriors offense takes advantage of Draymond's skill set rather than making his flaws stand out. And if you throw Blake into that mix instead of Green, there's a whole nother skill set on the table that most likely won't mesh as well with the other guys. This goes the other way as well. Throw Draymond onto the Pistons. Who's he going to pass to? Andre Drummond? Reggie Jackson? That front court duo wouldn't work too well if you ask me. So what's my point? It all depends on the scenario you're in. You're on too good of a team? Well, you're not going to put up good enough stats to win MVP. You're on too bad of a team? Well, you're not going to win enough games to win MVP. So then what do we prioritize? Wins or stats? Bill Russell or Wilt Chamberlain? Giannis Antetokounmpo or James Harden? Where do we draw the line? The line is drawn too often in sports. How much better is the best player than the second best player, really? So let's push MVP conversations to the side for a minute and focus on who the best player really is. Let's start off with the 50s. Obviously, the NBA started in 1946, so I'll move past the 40s swiftly, because most people don't give a rat's ass about them. 1946-1947. Most people know Joe Fultz as the guy who dominated the first couple of seasons in the NBA. However, that's not really the case. He led the league in scoring, yeah. He won the NBA championship, yeah. But he was more of a shot chucker on offense than anything. Most of the league at this time was shooting at a non-efficient rate, but you can't justify yourself being the best player in the NBA while shooting 30.5% from the field. The other guy worth mentioning is Ed Sadowski, who was actually traded 10 games into the season to the Cleveland Rebels. The best player of this season was Bob Barrett though, who shot at a much more efficient rate and led his team to the best record in the NBA along with 3 other double-digit scorers. Joe Fultz had none, by the way. Same song and dance with the second season where Bob Barrett is statistically superior to Joe Fultz. Bob's team choked in the playoffs again, but his regular season success outweighs that in my opinion. 1948 is where things start to change a little, as with a strong rookie class, George Mikan dominates the league, leading his team to the NBA championship. Arnie Rison and Bob Davies, 2 of the other rookies, dominate as well, giving them the second and third place positions in this season. Dolph Schayes and Alex Groza are the 2 rookies of the 1949 class that balled out in this season. But once again, George Mikan takes the cake with ease as he gives Minneapolis its second championship. Into the 1950s now. Ed Macauley averaged 20.4 points, 9.1 rebounds, 3.7 assists, and shot 46.6% from the field with 15.9 win shares. Ed and the Celtics lost to the eventual champions in the New York Knicks 2-0. Alex Groza, who was the second best player last season, averaged 21.7 points along with 10.7 rebounds and 2.7 assists, while having the second best win shares in the league behind, you guessed it, George Mikan. Alex Groza had a bad record, so that's the main thing holding him back from being the best player in the league this season, so the clear best player in the league for the 3rd season in a row is George Mikan. Having his best season yet, he averaged 28, 14, and 3. Not much else to say, except his team choked in the playoffs. On to 1951, another undisputed win for George Mikan even with a down season shooting only 38.5% from the field. Despite the scoring inefficiency, he still led the league in PER and placed second in win shares while winning another championship. Second this season goes to Paul Arizin and third to Ed Macauley. 1952-1953. George Mikan is on the decline, the Celtics are on the rise. Ed Macauley averaged 20.3 points per game along with 9.1 rebounds and 3.7 assists while being tied for first in field goal percentage. Bob Cousy, on the other hand, averaged 19.8 points, 6.3 rebounds, and 7.7 assists. Assists in the 50s and even 60s were extremely hard to get. he essentially had to pass directly to a bucket instead of how it is today where you can take a few dribbles before a score for it to count as an assist, hence why assist numbers are rising. So just keep that in mind while we go over these guys. However, the third player is obviously George Mikan, who put up 20.6 points, 14.4 rebounds, and 2.9 assists on the season, while placing second in win shares and leading the league in PER for the second year of its existence. Anyhow, him winning the finals and having the best record in the league will definitely top off this dominant stretch of his. 1953-1954. This is tough. There's 6 guys who could all make a case for the best player in the league. George Mikan, Bob Cousy, Dolph Schayes, Ed Macaulay, Neal Johnston, and Harry Gladden. It doesn't make it any easier that Paul Arizin is left for the Marine temporarily. I boiled it down to 3 guys naturally. George Mikan, Dolph Schayes, Ed Macaulay. On one hand we have George Mikan, who even though he's past his prime, still wreaks havoc on the league on the defensive and offensive end while winning his 3rd championship in a row. And on another hand, we have Ed Macaulay and Dolph Schayes, who both helped their teams to 42 win seasons while having excellent individual statistics. Dolph Schayes put up 17, 12, and 3 while coming 3rd in PER and 2nd in win shares. Ed Macaulay put up 19, 8, and 4 while leading the NBA in field goal percentage. The Nationals met up with the Celtics in the 2nd round, however, Ed was dealing with injuries so he played minimal minutes in that series. The Celtics ended up sweeping Macaulay's team but losing to the Lakers in the finals. Macaulay and Schayes both had better statistical seasons than Mikan, so he'll be eliminated from the race for the first time in a while, and Dolph Schayes will take the cheesecake this time around, giving him his first hypothetical MVP. 1954-1955. With George Mikan retiring for his first time, the race is tighter than ever. If you're a rare individual who knows a lot about 1950s basketball, you may be asking where Neal Johnston is. Up until this point, he has led the league in scoring 3 times, minutes 2 times, rebounding once, which is this current season, and field goal percentage once. Pretty impressive for this being only his 4th season. The fact of the matter is, he just can't win. He hasn't had a winning record once in his 4 seasons in the league, and it took the addition of Tom Gola in 1955 to push him and Paul Arizin over the edge. Being a top 3 player in the league means you're able to win games, and considering he had a decent squad around them, it's just unacceptable to paint him as a top 3 player so far. The 3 best players this season are Dolph Schayes, Larry Faust, and Bob Cousy. Kind of weak, not gonna lie. Anyhow, Dolph Schayes didn't put up fantastic stats like most of his seasons, but he's just one of those guys whose impact doesn't necessarily show up on the stat sheet. He's more of a defensive-minded player, and that's the trouble with defense, especially in the 50s and 60s. There were no stats for defense. No steals, no blocks, no defensive rating, no on-off statistics, and no defensive box plus minus. The only thing to measure defense in this era is defensive win shares and the obvious eye test, which in and of itself is hard to do with the lack of footage from this time. From the numbers available though, Dolph Schayes was more of a defensive-minded player and was the first real stretch 4. Larry Faust, who is a new guy in this video, has been in the league for 4 years previous, however this was really a breakout season for him offensively, averaging 17 points per game while leading the league in field goal percentage. He led his team to the tie of the best record in the league and placed 2nd in win shares and 3rd in PER. Finally is Bob Cousy. With only helping his team to an even record, he is the clear 3rd best this season, however he averaged 21.2 points per game, 6 rebounds, and 7.8 assists per game, with possibly the most debatable choice so far. Larry Faust was the best player in the league this season. 1955-1956. This is the first season where the MVP award has become a thing, and Bob Pettit won it. Did he deserve it? Let's dive into the stats to find out. Bob Pettit averaged 25.7 points per game, 1st in the league, 16.2 rebounds per game, 2nd, 2.6 assists per game, and shot 42.9% from the field. He also had 13.8 win shares and a 27.3 PER. Pretty impressive, right? Yeah, sure, but his team also had a negative record, and he essentially didn't even make the playoffs as they lost in the Western Division 2nd place tiebreaker. Is it arbitrary that he didn't have the best team around him? Maybe, but if you're the most valuable player in the league, you have to at least bring your team, no matter how bad, to a winning record. As an annexation, playing well with bad teammates and bringing a bad team to a better record is less valuable than playing with good teammates and bringing a mediocre team to a good record. The undisputed best team in the league this season and the NBA champions were the Philadelphia Warriors. Finally, Neal Johnston gets his winning season. All it took was the addition of Tom Gola, and along with Paul Arizin, this team dominated this season. But who was the best player on this championship team? Paul Arizin or Neal Johnston? While it isn't necessarily a moral thing to compare two players on the same team, we have to disregard that moral premise and focus on the facts here. While both of them were the champions, they also posted up by far the best statistics in the league, so don't think winning is the only contributable factor to these guys' induction. Paul Arizin averaged 24.2 points, 7.5 rebounds, 2.6 assists, and shot 44.8% from the field. He also had 12.2 win shares and a 21.3 PER. Neal Johnston, on the other hand, averaged 22.1 points, 12.5 rebounds, 3.2 assists, and led the league in field goal percentage and win shares along with a 25.1 PER. I think everyone would agree Johnston is the clear winner on this one. Bob Pettit was not worthy. 1956-1957. Neal Johnston would go back to leading his team to a mediocre record, but he did still put up excellent stats. He's in, but calling him the best player while going 37-35 is unreasonable. Now the MVP, Bob Cousy. Did he deserve it? Putting up 20.6 points per game, 4.8 rebounds per game, and 7.5 assists per game while winning the NBA championship sounds like it, but what pushed his team over the edge? What brought his team from a 33-39 record to a 44-28 record? What changed? Was it Jim Loskadov returning from injury? Was it the addition of rookie Tom Heinsohn? No, silly. It was Bill fucking Russell. We have to remember that the Celtics essentially traded away perennial superstar Ed Macauley to get him. And so what I'm saying is that a rookie Bill Russell, a Bill Russell who didn't even make the All-Star game, is the best player in the league. Maybe. It's close. This is another scenario of who the best player on the championship team is. Bill averaged 14.7 points, 19.6 rebounds, 1.8 assists, and shot 42.7% from the field. The fact that he didn't make the All-Star team, especially considering guys like Nick Clifton made it, is eye-piercing. It's true that he missed the first month or so of the season, however he dominated when he came in. This could be attributed to racial bigotry at the time, as it was especially prominent in the city of Boston, but despite my willingness to give Bill Russell the edge here, Bob Cousy was just a step ahead of him and was a large part in why Bill played well offensively this season. 1957-1958, the season where Bill Russell took Rudy Gobert to a whole new level by making the All-NBA second team and winning the MVP. As you may know, Rudy Gobert got snubbed big time from the All-Star game last year and made the All-NBA third team. So this is somewhat excusable. Theoretically, you could play at a mediocre level until the All-Star game and then turn it up big time after the All-Star break. This wasn't the case with Rudy Gobert, however, this happening to Bill Russell is just weird. Anyhow, he did play like the real MVP this season, averaging 16.6 points, 22.7 rebounds, and 2.9 assists per game. Bob Pettit, who is the clear second best in the league, did take out Bill Russell in the NBA Finals 4-2, but Bill did have the better season. 1958-1959. With dominant rookie Elgin Baylor coming into the league, things get a little more heaty. He averaged 25 points, 15 rebounds, and 4 assists in his rookie season while playing good defense. Not only this, but he rated second in the league in PER, only behind Bob Pettit. Speaking of the Devil, he ranked first in points, second in rebounds, first in PER, and first in win shares while going 49-23. Finally, we've obviously got Bill Russell, 16.7 points, 23 rebounds, 3.2 assists, and shot 45.7% from the field, all while winning his second NBA championship. Since Elgin had a losing record, he's definitely the first one out, and between Bill Russell and Bob Pettit it's tough, but in my opinion Bill Russell takes the cupcake by a hair despite Bob Pettit winning the MVP. 1959-1960, the final season of the 50s, and possibly the hardest, all because of... This is the ultimate winning versus stats argument. Wilt put up 37.6 points, 27 rebounds, 2.3 assists, and shot 46.1% from the field, and had 17 win shares and a 28 PER. He did win games though, as with Paul Arizin, Guy Rogers, and Tom Gola, he led his team to the second best record in the league. Bill Russell put up 18.2 points, 24 rebounds, 3.7 assists, and shot 46.7% from the field with a 20.1 PER and 13.8 win shares. The third guy we obviously have is Bob Pettit, but he is a step behind these two in any case. In fact, this comparison for this season was solely dependent on how they played against each other, and much to my catastrophic disapproval, Wilt Chamberlain has this one by less than a quart. Alright, so this is part 1 to the ultimate guide, as I'm calling it. The ultimate guide to the best player every season, debunking each MVP one at a time. There will be an episode for every decade of basketball, so stay tuned for those, and this took me a shit ton of time to make, so please subscribe, always helps, and thank you all for watching. I'll see you buddies in the next one.